Look at my puppy. She's so cute. Hello, it's Patty. I have been blogging about my choice book, The Edge of the Water by Elizabeth George, for the last month, and this morning I just read for 2 hours and finally finished the book, which is very satisfying because it has a great ending, and so I'm now doing a book review on it so that you can decide if you want to read it or not. First thing is the setting. It's set on a kind of odd small island, and there's this weird mix of normal life, normal people, like everyday kind of nonfiction sort of stuff. And then there's this more fictional, mystical, like mysterious part of it that you don't really understand as a reader until the end. And I think it's an interesting blend because it's not all just people and like explainable things, and it's not like unicorns and dragons all the time. It's like this blend of them together, and I think it's pretty cool. For the point of view that the author used, it was first person, but the narration actually changed throughout the book depending on the chapter, from Jen to Becca. I thought this was nice. You didn't get bored as easily because you're switching these completely different mindsets and like perspectives on life. Then also there are these random chapters that have the point of view of Derek, which didn't make much sense to me as a reader. It kind of just confused me and threw me off. And there are also a few chapters from the point of view of Scylla, which was part of the mystical fantasy thing, which was actually really interesting to me because you wanted to know more, but you wouldn't actually find out for like 5 chapters later when you heard her voice again, even though she didn't talk much, which is funny if you read it because she can't talk. And then, so I don't want to just summarize the entire book and give it away because that would ruin the point of a book review if you want to actually read the book. But what I will say is that before I read this, I looked at some book reviews to see if it was a good choice, and they all said that it was very slow to start off, which I will definitely agree with. I probably didn't really enjoy reading the book until page like 175, and given that there are like 450 pages in the book, that's like a solid third, which isn't the greatest. But I will say, to give the author justice, it did really pick up from there, and I was intrigued. Nevertheless, I'd like to talk about the different pieces of this book that the author uses. There are a ton of characters in the book. I could list them all day long. There's definitely over 10, and there's a lot. At the beginning, they're like so far apart, all these different pieces, and at the end, they all come together, which is great. But for this beginning section of the book, it makes almost no sense. And what I'd like to say is that some authors can make this work. For example, in Shakespeare Macbeth, the witches give these prophecies, and there are these pieces that you don't really know how they fit in, but as a reader, you make inferences and you kind of connect the pieces a little bit before the story gets there, which is rewarding as a reader. You're like, oh, I figured it out. And in this book, I didn't quite get that same feeling. Another example would be in theater. Playwriters often you make jokes with words that have 2 meanings. So the joke isn't just right there. You completely understand it the first time you hear it, but you kind of think about it and then you laugh a little bit and you're like, oh, I get it. And it's really rewarding as an audience member, and I think the same is shown in literature and in reading. So a lot of the pieces in this book, I wish I could have connected them just a little bit earlier, because I was a little bit lost. as to how everything was going to work out until the very end. But I do want to give the author some credit because it was a good book. I did enjoy it. It wasn't my favorite, but especially at the end, I was like, oh, I get it. And it wrapped up nicely. There are still some unanswered questions because this is the second book and there is a third book in this series. But I actually never read the first book and I did pretty fine in this. I would give this book 3 patty faces. 3 out of 5. Because it was good but not great, and the beginning was quite slow. But once you get into it, if you read a lot, I would say go for it. You might like it more than me, you might like it less than me. Books are a lot on opinion, so give it a chance. It's by a #1 New York Best Times selling author that's not English. And there is praise for the first book. Maybe I'll read that next. So have fun. Go read on your Thanksgiving break like me. I've never noticed this. I think I have a lazy eye. Look at this eye. And then look at this eye. That's not how it's supposed to go.